Now going to explore the top 10 signs of fatigue. Now, number one is going to be a higher RPE. So RPE stands for the rate of perceived exertion. And inside the portal, you can find the scale, which is generally from 1 to 10. For endurance running, it's anywhere between 8 to 20. But for this, we're just going to focus on the RPE scale, the Borg RPE scale to be specific. And essentially, if you are an RPE 8, 9, or 10, exercises feel much heavier or harder than they usually do. That is a sign that you need a break as such. If you've got low motivation, number two, you're dreading to go to the gym or you're just going through the motions, you don't really want to go there. That is also a sign that you need a deload or you need a break. But again, we need to differentiate between, okay, do you just have low motivation because you're not getting a result? Or is it low motivation because you've been training, excuse my French, but balls deep for a good chunk of time now, 12, 16 weeks. You've trained so hard that now you're starting to get a little bit more fatigued. Low motivation, you've got to drag yourself to come and do a set of leg extensions. Well, yeah, you need a break then. Number three is going to be mood swings. So if you feel irritable, flat, or suddenly not caring about your goals, definitely means you need a break. If you're fixated on your goals from the get-go and you have a strategy and structure in place, there should be no real reason why you should have a mood swing other than external factors, things outside of your control, but how we respond to them will dictate our mood. Number four, poor sleep. So tossing and turning. If you're waking up feeling exhausted, your body's just not getting the rest and recovery it needs when you're meant to be getting a good night's sleep. So if you have poor sleep and then on top of that, you're doing cardio, you've then got a full day at work, you've then got a resistance training, we should be prioritizing sleep there. And you need a break from that. Number five. Are we on number 4 or number 5? 1, 2, 3, 4. We're on number 5, appetite shifts. Be good if I actually put numbers next to it instead of bullet points. Number 5, appetite shifts. So dealing with bloating, indigestion, or a sudden loss of hunger. I mean, the stats they vary quite specifically based on your individual, but we would say that 80% of your gut microbiome actually impacts your mood. Okay, so if you've got bloating, indigestion, or sudden loss of hunger, that does mean that the body is under extreme amount of fatigue. Therefore, you do need a break. Number 6, lower libido. So if you got a noticeable drop in sex drive or changes in your menstrual cycle, you definitely need a break. Or you just need to look at things such as dietary fat within your nutrition plan. Number 7, performance drop. If you're getting weaker, you're losing stamina despite training hard, you definitely need a break. Your body is under recovering. Number 8, if you've got no pump, your muscles feel flat and don't get tight. You're not as full during a workout. You need a deload, especially if you have been focusing on water and sodium. Pain and sickness, number 9. If you've got joint stiffness, you're aching, you're catching a cold that's going around, you definitely need a break. And then number 10, high resting heart rate. If your heart is beating faster than normal whilst you're at rest, you most definitely need a break because it's working overtime. That means it's combating any viral or bacterial infection or even systemic inflammation. So, how does fatigue affect your training? Number 1, it's going to decrease in speed and power. So let's say you're doing a barbell bench press and it felt super explosive for the first couple of weeks, but all of a sudden you've got a drop in explosiveness or quickness during those lifts and those athletic movements. That is fatigue. Decrease in learning new lifts. So slow progression when picking a new exercise or technique. This is often due to fatigue or neural strain. So it's super important, like in between training blocks, you do have a devolume or even a deload. Then we got decreased strength, the most obvious one. So let's say you were benching 100 kilos and then all of a sudden this week you're now benching, struggling with 80 kilos. The maximum force output that you're originally doing is now reduced. Even with consistent training, that is fatigue. Reduced anabolic processes. So if you've got lower activation of mTOR signaling, which diminishes muscle building potential. So again, that just means it's fatigue. Increased catabolic processes. So if you've got high activation of AMPK pathways, promoting muscle breakdown rather than muscle protein synthesis, and it's looking at energy conservation as well, you definitely need a break. That is fatigue. Body composition changes. So potential muscle loss. So if you're losing muscle, if you've got fat gain and your difficulty shedding fat despite staying on plan, you're training hard, your nutrition is in check, you've been eating the same meals, it's fatigue. You definitely need to wash that away. Maybe even implement a refeed. Reduced protein synthesis. So training stimulates less muscle repair and growth than usual. Decreased immunity, a weaker immune system, making illness more likely. And then finally, the biggest and most obvious is that you are prone to more injury risk. So higher chances of strains, sprains, or overuse injuries due to fatigued tissues and impaired recovery. The most common are going to be hamstrings. My hamstrings, I've probably torn them maybe 2 or 3 times due to fatigue and then try and do high explosive power movements. I used to play football and futsal to a very, very high level, professional, semi-professional. And I would then go into the gym the day after and do my barbell back squats, ridiculous weights like 260, 270 kilos for multiple sets and reps. And I'd wonder why my hamstrings were absolutely blown to bits. And I remember coming back from a futsal game and I'd actually torn my hamstring just because I was jumping from side to side, that twitch muscle fiber, that explosiveness, because I was under recovered and over fatigued. Yeah, the muscle just ripped. It was a grade 2 tear. So overreaching and overtraining. Funny enough, we're talking about that now. But overreaching, it's a short-term drop in training performance that usually recovers within a few days. This is far more common than often part of a normal training cycle. So generally speaking, like between week 3 and week 4, you might be overreaching. You might be trying to push weights that you've never done before. You might have a drop in training performance. That's cool. No need to kind of get ahead of yourself and worry that you've lost all your gains. We just need to be strategic there, implement a deload, and let your body chill out. Overtraining, however, is a long-term decline in training performance that can take weeks or months to recover. It's likely due to poorly managed contest preparation, so things like a photo shoot or excessive intense training without adequate recovery. So if you're trying to run a marathon every single day and you're also trying to lift like World's Strongest Man every single day, guess what? You're going to under-recover, and you are most likely going to have a drop in training performance and a long-term decline, which means it's going to take months, maybe even a year sometimes to fully recover in that extreme. This is what it looks like. We've got performance on the left-hand side. We've got the training load at the bottom, but we can see that towards the peak, we're performing pretty well. And then all of a sudden, this is the inverted U theory, by the way. It's called the inverted U theory. But then we sort of reach a point where you're overreaching. So sort of this like turquoise / duck egg color, green. I'll let you decide. It could be helpful with adequate recovery. So yeah, I mean, like you can make maybe 1 to 2% more gains, but then all of a sudden it starts to drop. And because it starts to drop, you get worried. Therefore you start training a little bit harder. Maybe you try do more sets, more reps, and then that leads to overtraining. So chronic fatigue that could take months, even years to recover from because you were extreme and you didn't listen to your body. I like the way you kiss me. I can tell you listen. I can tell